Well, I just want to say thank you all for being here today. As you all are, I'm pretty sure that I am also heartbroken at yet another senseless shooting in our city. I do see Pastor Dixon, you are here as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you come on up too? You're a strong community leader. I do see Councilmember Reed. Why don't you come on up too? This is all of us. This is our city. We have here, standing beside each other, the committed community leaders, residents, and public safety agencies who have worked hard to end gun violence. And yet now we see that more families are feeling this pain, the pain due to, yet again, more gun violence in our city. And we are not unique in this. We have seen other shootings across the state as well, too. I'd like to just first and foremost thank Acting Chief Allison and his team for being here today to give you all the update on this case. I know he and his department are doing everything they can to get the facts of the case, and they work tirelessly every day to make our city safer, to build the Oakland that we all know we deserve. And I know how hard it is for them. And that is a tremendous weight on our personnel. It is the weight that we all carry as Oakland residents when something like this occurs, when there is a mass shooting like this. I'm grateful for our representatives from Ceasefire. We have here with us from OPD, the head of Ceasefire, which is Captain Jones. We also have Reverend Demita, who is the chair of Ceasefire, and again, Pastor Dixon, who is also a strong leader with Ceasefire. We have here with us, as I mentioned earlier, Councilmember Jenkins, who is the council member for the district. This happened in District 6. And I appreciate that Councilmember Reed, as we all know that we are all interconnected, is also here standing with us as well, too. The best way we keep our community safe is to prevent crimes from occurring. And I want to thank the people in this room for their ongoing dedication to ensure that we continue this fight. This is the third mass shooting in California in less than a week. This is the 39th mass shooting in America so far in 2023. This problem isn't unique to our state, but it is unique to our nation. This has to end. It must end. We must deal with the proliferation of guns on our streets at every single level of government. Because I ask, and dare I ask, how many more times do we have to look at the front page of our papers, turn on our TVs, and see that someone else has lost a family member, or lost their life? Far too many times. And in situations like this, I can't help but just think of my son, who has never known a time where there were no mass shootings, where they weren't occurring in our schools, in our churches, in our dance halls, and on our streets. And that is never okay, and it must come to an end. So I appreciate all the work the people in this room do day in and day out to end violence and solve these crimes when they do occur. But we need the national leaders who block sensible action on guns to stop the obstruction. Stop and think about the lives that are lost every single day in our communities. And then act. Find the strength to act and put in place common sense gun reforms. This is our fight. This is a fight that I'm invested in, and I'm willing to continue. And I know that all these fine folks up here are willing to as well, too. And so with that being said, I do want to make sure that you all are abreast in regards to the situation that is happening. I want to introduce Acting Chief Allison to come to the podium to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to begin by stating that over the last few weeks, our country has experienced a disturbing trend of mass shootings and gun violence. A tragic trend that has extended to our state just over the last few days in Monterey Park and Half Moon Bay. And last night, this trend was experienced sadly closer to home as the city of Oakland erupted in gunfire, showing that we are not immune from this type of epidemic. I want to recognize the victims, along with the families and friends who have lost loved ones to this epidemic of gun violence. The Oakland Police Department is investigating a targeted shooting that occurred on January 23rd, just last night, in the 5900 block of Macarthur Boulevard, just after 6 p.m. OPD officers were dispatched to the area to investigate a shot spotter activation. On arrival, officers quickly worked to learn what had happened. During the course of the preliminary investigation, officers learned that approximately 40 to 50 people were at a location where individuals were filming a music video. While the recording was occurring, gunfire broke out from multiple shooters in various directions. When officers arrived on scene, they located several casings, but at the time, no victims. OPD Communications Division received notification of multiple gunshot wound victims who had self-transported to several area hospitals. In all, there were 5 victims struck by gunfire, all of which were adults. Of those victims, tragically, an 18-year-old man, Mr. Mario Navarro, was fatally shot during the incident. At this time, we are aware of 6 additional victims ranging in ages from 15 to 63. One vehicle was struck by stray bullets as they left the scene. Another victim had a stray bullet enter their place of business. A driver and passengers were injured as they were involved in a solo vehicle accident while they were fleeing the scene. Currently, there's only one person remaining at the hospital. We are looking into the possibility of a gang or group connection with this incident. We are deploying our Violent Crimes Operations Center staff as well as our Ceasefire teams in response, as well as partnering with our Department of Violent Prevention and our violence interrupters, as well as our community stakeholders. We are asking for our community to help us in this investigation. If you have video or information about this case, please contact our OPD Homicide Section at 510-238-3821, or you can call the tip line at 510-238-7950. I want to make sure everyone knows that this is an ongoing investigation and our officers are reviewing several pieces of evidence. Any updates we will push out through our social media, but understand that we will do everything we can to figure out who committed these crimes and we'll bring them to justice.
And thank you so much, Chief Allison, for that. I also want to make sure that I introduce and bring up to the mic Captain Jones. You know, it is imperative that when situations like this happen, that we all work together. And that is the ongoing work of OPD, the Department of Violence Prevention, and including Ceasefire as well. So I want to introduce to you Captain Jones from OPD, who leads Ceasefire in the city of Oakland.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Captain Tony Jones of the Ceasefire Division. And, Ceasefire is a strategy we've been using here in Oakland since 2012. And it's been really, really effective for us and allowed us to cut shootings and homicides by over 50% since we've been using this strategy. So like Chief Allison said, this incident that occurred last night, we suspect that there may be a gang connection. So Ceasefire will be coordinating the activities of the Oakland Police Department in our response to this particular incident. Unfortunately, we do have a lot of experience in dealing with these kinds of incidents. And so the coordination and the communication between the police department, the community, and the Department of Violence Prevention, the structure is in place for us all to work together and come up with strategies that work. The biggest threat to us right now is retaliatory shootings. The groups going back and forth, and we continue to see violence that will stem from this particular incident. So at the police department, we'll be working with everybody, the community, Department of Violence Prevention. Our plan will be laser focused on the specific people or the specific groups that are involved in this particular incident last night. And we'll bring every resource that we have to bear within the city to make sure that we can stop the back and forth or the retaliation between the individuals who were involved in this incident last night. So we're going to do everything that we can. This was a tragedy, but we are prepared to respond to this. You know, we've got a lot of experience in dealing with these gang conflicts, and we just rely on the community and our partners at DVP and I'm sure that we'll be able to bring some justice and closure to the families who lost their loved ones, and to prevent any shootings from happening in the future that are connected to this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Captain Jones. And as Captain Jones has stated, and also Chief Allison, we cannot do this work, solve these crimes, without the support of our community. And so I want to make sure that we bring up Reverend Demita Howard. Reverend Demita Howard is our chair of Ceasefire.
Thank you, Mayor, and everybody here up here today. My name is Reverend Demita Davis Howard, and I've been an advocate for the ceasefire strategy for over 10 years. The reason why is because gun violence is very personal to me. I lost my only brother, who was 8 years my junior, some years ago, and a number of other family members. Talking about personal, this incident happened 4 blocks from my home. If I had stopped as I planned at my favorite Thai restaurant at 60th and Macarthur, I could have been caught in the array of bullets that was happening at that time, but I was not. The first thing I did when I heard about it is I had to locate my children, because that is a neighborhood snack spot. We frequent that corner. This is personal to me. This is about saving the lives of young black and brown men, especially in the city of Oakland. This should be personal for you. This should be personal for each and every one of you. We need to join forces. We need to be a community that is united in saving the lives of other Oaklanders and stopping gun violence in our beautiful, wonderful, special city. I ask everybody here to join in with the partnership of Ceasefire, Faith in Action, DVP, Highland Hospital, community youth organizations, OPD, probation. We all come together because our North Star is to save lives in this city. That should be the mission of each and every one of you. So please, please, first of all, put each and every one of those victims and their families, the businesses, in your prayers. We need to come together and we need action to stop this violence. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Reverend Demita Howard. And excuse me, she is actually the director of Ceasefire. I also want to make sure that we get an opportunity to the actual chair of Ceasefire. Pastor Billy Dixon is here. He works as a volunteer, working closely with the city as well, too. And again, once again, we cannot do this hard work on our own. Our children deserves more, deserves better, and this is why we work hand in glove, the city, along with the community, to ensure that we have the resources, the correct information, to make sure that we go after the people who is committing the gun violence, to bring them to justice. So Pastor Dixon, if you may say a few words.
Let me just be straight and direct to the point. Can I do this, Captain Jones? Can you come stand next to me for a second? We've been knocking on doors now for a long time, for some years, not to take anybody to jail, but to offer services and things that people need. Today, I'm going to be very transparent. People that are thinking about retaliating, people that are thinking about going back to get revenge, before you do that, please call 510-430-1800. Give me a call. Let's break bread. Let's talk about how we can help you change your mind, change your thought, that we may help you today. It's time out for all this violence. I'm asking for every faith institution. Let's get together. Let's help our brothers. Let's help them see a different way. A young man one time told me, as he was sentenced 25 years to life, if I met more people like you, I probably wouldn't be here. Let's make that true today.
Thank you, and I do want to give opportunity to the council member which this incident happened in, and that's Council Member Kevin Jenkins. Council Member Jenkins.
Thank you, Mayor Thao. It's with a heavy heart that I stand here before you. I'm outraged, I'm disgusted. The community is outraged. We are disgusted. No young person should have to lose their life like this. Right? Every young person should be able to reach their fullest potential. And Mario Navarro's life was stolen from him. There's deep trauma that is seated in our community because of the gun violence that plagues our community. I apologize to the students at Fromm's Martial Arts that have to deal with this trauma of knowing that someone was shot in your community and that for a moment in time that you were unsafe. Every child should be safe here in Oakland. Every single child should be safe. Every single young adult should be able to reach their fullest potential. And I am just sick and tired of Black and brown men being killed in our streets, being killed. I'm sorry to the parents that have to deal with this, the struggles with this. But Oakland is a resilient city, and together, as we're talking about with Ceasefire, if we all come together, we can defeat gun violence in our city. Thank you, Mayor Thao.
And so at this point, we'll open for Q&A in regards to this subject matter. Please go ahead and raise your hand, and I will call upon you, and the right person from standing up here right next to me will come up to answer your questions. Yes.
Bob Rudell with NBC Bay Area. Question for the captain or the chief. Have you identified the shooters? You know, we were also under the impression that there was a shootout, but the other side started shooting back. Is that the case? And also, the video that was being shot for the music video, have you looked at that, and did that help with your investigation?
Thank you for the question. We are reviewing several pieces of evidence. We are not prepared to push out at this time any of the leads that are associated with that evidence, but we have a lot of information to sift through. What I can say is, as I mentioned earlier, there were multiple shooters, but at this point in time, we're just trying to there the evidence to formulate our next steps in the investigation.
When you say multiple, are we talking 2, 5, 10? I mean, can you give us...
There was a lot of casings at the scene, and a lot of video, so we're trying to work through that evidence piece to get a firm number on what we have. We know it's more than one.
What kind of guns?
We saw various caliber casings out there.
Are we handguns, semi-automatic, or ARs?
We have handgun casings or low caliber casings, as well as what appears to be rifle casings.
And so, just to clarify, do you know who the other gang is, or have you identified them or the individuals? I know you're not going to tell us who they are, but have you, in your department, identified these people?
We have a good sense of involved parties as far as groups and gangs. We're not prepared to release it at this time, but we do have, I think, solid leads to go forward in this case.
And what was the nature of the music video? Do you know? I mean, were they going there because they were shooting this music video, or was it just an opportunity?
I think, I don't want to speculate too much. I know there was a group there. We know some were affiliated with the music video. Some were in the course of their day-to-day activities. What the draw was is still going to be under investigation.
So have you had problems with the similar groups of individuals or gang members before? Has there been an ongoing problem with these groups of people involved?
Tragically, in our city, we do experience a significant number of shootings, gang and group related. We have a number of active conflicts, a number of old conflicts that could spark up at any time. So the ideas we have behind these groups, they're not new conflicts, they're things that are always in the potential for violence. And so it's something that we're paying a close attention to. And it's one of the reasons why I know with our community, Pastor Dixon and what Captain Jones was indicating, that we're so intent on, if you're thinking about retaliating, there's an avenue, there's another pathway that's not picking up a firearm. There's a way that we can work together and mediate our way through this. And so definitely I want to lift up what Pastor Dixon said and to reach out to prevent any retaliatory shootings.
As the country really looks at shootings and mass shootings now, the one in Southern California, the one in Half Moon Bay, and as the city of Oakland continues to grapple with gun violence, what do you want people to know? I mean, as people are looking at, the motives behind those shootings, the motives behind these shootings seem to be often gang violence.
That conflicts they're not going to be solved with a gun. It's just that violence is not an acceptable way for any kind of conflict resolution. That there's things that can be done through mediation. There's things that can be done just through understanding that we are all here together as humanity, and taking the life of another person for any reason is not an acceptable way of living amongst one another. So for us, our job is to ensure safety, to follow up on individuals and tragedies, and to know and let the community know and have confidence that we will employ every resource. And I know I mentioned our ceasefire partnerships, but we also have strong partnerships with our federal partners and our local partners, and that we employ every measure that we have in our stead, that if you do not put the guns down, if you do not engage in behaviors that are not associated with violence, we will hold you accountable and we will bring you to justice.
Can you or the captain or the pastor go knock on the door of the other side and say, hey, we get a sense that maybe you're going to do this, don't do it, outside of putting a public plea out for the television cameras?
So our direct communication addresses anybody that is at risk of gun violence, either on the offender side or on the victim side. I certainly can have Captain Jones go into a little bit more detail of our direct communication process, but if we think that there's a way to minimize and mitigate violence, we will reach out to those individuals. Captain Jones, you want to say something further?
So just to follow up to what Chief Allison just said and answer your question, that is something that we regularly do within Oakland. Pastor Dixon and myself routinely drive around and just get out and talk to people on hot spots in various parts of the city. But in incidents like this, we always try to identify people who we think are prone to violence or prone to being a victim of violence, and try to engage them with a message that's tailored towards their specific circumstances that they're going through in that moment. So in the coming days, we will be looking to reach out to individuals who may be connected with some of the victims, associates of the victims, and trying to deliver them a message of hope, trying to get them to calm down, to lower the temperature on the things that are going on between the parties involved, and try to get them to resolve this thing in a peaceful way so that nobody else has to go to jail, or that nobody else, has to become a victim of gun violence.
What we always fail to realize of what Captain Jones brings you one side, but there's services that are offered. There's more than just don't stop shooting. There's things that you may need, mental health, whatever they may need at that time. We reach out to those that are either on the victim side or the ones that perpetrated the violence, whatever side. So it's not just going on there saying stop and you better stop. It's saying, hey, we have this for you, we have that for you, we have this for you. And that's something that the community needs to know. Ceasefire is about holding everybody accountable.
Also, those who might be able to influence.
And those that might be able to influence. Thank you, Reverend Demeter. Those that might be influenced. So that means we're talking to mothers, fathers, brothers, cousins, best friends. We're talking to a lot of people. And it's more than just Captain Jones and I. The Department of Violence Prevention plays a big part of that, of where they go and they offer the services. And I hold the Department of Violence Prevention accountable, and I hold OPD accountable. So if I ever call you for a news conference, you better believe they're not being accountable.
Hi, I'm Ashley from the Oakland side. I think this question is for Chief Allison. Can you go over again the information you said about the victims? So there were 5 victims who were initially struck, and then there were 6 more?
So we had 5 victims who were struck by gunfire. The additional victims were either victims of the shooting, meaning they were not struck personally, but their business was struck. We had one where their business was struck, but that individual was not hit by gunfire. And then we had another vehicle that was struck by gunfire with one occupant who was struck by gunfire and 2 that were not. And then we had additional 3 who were involved in a collision that were not struck by gunfire.
And so how many total injured were there?
So we had 5 struck by gunfire, and then 3 that had complaints of injuries from the collision.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. That will conclude our press conference. Thank you.
One last question, please.
Okay, one last question. Yes?
A colleague of mine would like to
I want to say that this matter is incredibly serious, this matter around the mass shooting. And in regards to, I have not seen a request from the NAACP. I know that they have an ongoing media thing that's happening probably right now as well too. But at the end of the day, that's a personnel matter, and we're going to leave it at that. And thank you for respecting the fact that we are here to speak about a mass shooting in our beautiful city of Oakland where people have died. Thank you.